Welcome back! A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I went on a cruise to Alaska. This is the first vacation I've had since I've been in this field. I've been in the fields for about 5 years, so that's how long it's been since I've had like a real vacation. I've been to like visit family and I've been on little like staycations like around the state, but this was the first real like travel and be disconnected from everything and just enjoy time and new experiences. So most of the activities we ended up doing were animal related, no surprise, and I learned so much. I do want to do travel videos on this channel. I'm just not really sure what I want to do or how I want them to look. I also really want to prioritize traveling in the future. I feel like I've gotten to a place where I'm pretty confident in my skills and I feel good about where I am professionally in my career, that I feel like I can now take time to like pursue things that I want outside of work. Before, when I was starting, I was like, oh, I have to commit all of my time to learning and getting better at my job so that I can get to a certain point where like everything is chill and I don't have to worry about something happening because I didn't know what I was doing. Especially when you're in this field or any other kind of like high volume, intense work environment, it's easy to like get in your grind and kind of forget that there's a world outside of your clinic, your shelter, and your home. This is your reminder, if you are in a really high intensity field, that there is a world outside of your work and your job will not fall apart if you take a little time away for yourself. Okay, rant over. Anyway, I'm not really sure how I want to do travel videos, so this was kind of like dipping my toes in the water, seeing what I was comfortable filming. Of course, I wanted to like enjoy my vacation and not be like just on my phone all the time or like worrying about getting certain shots and things like that, because that's not how I want to live my life. I got a lot of cool clips with our animal activities. So I thought for this video I'd share all of the interesting animal related facts that I learned on my trip. So let's go. So before we got on our trip, we spent 2 days in our port city, which was Seward, Alaska. The drive from Anchorage to Seward is like so gorgeous. You are on the water a lot of the time, going through like mountains and things like that. So it was so beautiful. And that was one of the things I was really excited about for this trip, was just the views. We have been on cruises before. We had kind of said we weren't gonna do another cruise unless it was like what you're getting while you're on the boat is worth it. So like your views that you have while you're just on your boat. And that definitely paid off. So the one day we spent in Seward, we had a tour scheduled with a dog sledding kennel in Seward. It almost got canceled because of the weather. This was like really the only day on our trip that it was like rainy and cloudy and just like bleh. But we ended up going, everyone ended up roughing it out. So we did a tour with the Seavey Family kennels. So the Seavey family is a really huge family in racing, and one of their members was like instrumental in starting the modern Iditarod race as we know it today. Fact number 1 that I learned was that the ideal temperature for sled dog racing is actually -10 degrees. It is really the perfect temperature because they're not going to get too hot from the running. There's like a little bit more of a control with that. So the day we went on our trip, it was actually in like the 30s, even with the rain. So it was a little chilly to us, but it was like warm for them. So we had to stop multiple times so that they could relax and not get overheated and be able to keep going. So I can't speak to any other family kennels because this is the only one I've been to. But what I found really interesting about the Seaveys is that they don't pay a great attention to specific breeds. So the sled dogs you're used to seeing in movies are probably the Siberian Husky, you know, those ones with the really clear defined mass and the really fluffy manes. But these dogs were all actually kind of mixes. So the Seaveys really focus on finding dogs that want to do the work, which is running and pulling and working as a team. So other than the obvious like dachshunds or pugs, they are just looking for dogs that have the right builds to go certain lengths and who want to do that. A lot of crossbreeding has kind of occurred, and that has created this new breed, which is the Alaskan Husky. So to me, it looks like kind of a cross between a Siberian Husky, but also like German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, Labs, and things like that. So you'll see in these videos that they all look so different. Some of them do have like the mask, and Alaskan Huskies are known to have some kind of mask on their face, but a lot of them don't, and a lot of them are just kind of like one color. A lot of them aren't super duper fluffy like Siberian Huskies. You know, they're all just kind of a mishmash of everything. And this just made my heart really sing, because I know so many dogs in shelters that all they want to do is run, all they want to do is like be going. So I really think you could probably find some good trainable sled dogs in shelters. So after our ride, we got to meet the dogs, and then we got to kind of learn about different sledding equipment and things like that, things that the racers take on races like the Iditarod. And the one thing I thought was super funny was that they actually have handmade these like fur bikini bottoms for the boys to protect their nethers in the cold and from all the snow being like raked up onto their bellies. The other little bonus thing is that I learned that the Iditarod is mostly staffed by volunteers. So all of the events that are happening are run completely by volunteers, and you can bet that I am going to be putting my application in, because they also need volunteer vet techs. So I will probably be doing that once registration opens. Okay, so switching gears. Obviously, salmon is a huge part of Alaskan culture and of their trade and everything like that. And one thing I found really interesting was that this year there's actually all of this debate and legislation going on about shutting down commercial salmon fishing. The reason behind it is because there's a population of killer whales or orcas that are really struggling to find food because of the amount of commercial fishing that's happening, as well as some parts of like pollution and things like that. So there are groups that are pushing to close down salmon fishing for this season just to help replenish the population so that these whales actually have food to survive. If your salmon is a little bit more expensive at the store, just know it's for a good cause. Okay, so that was a good little segue into the biggest part of this, which was about whales. Around this time is kind of the best time for whale watching in Alaska. So even before we got on the boat, we were able to see a humpback off the coast of Lake Seward. And so at that point, I was like, my vacation is perfect, because I wasn't even looking and there it was. Because I have heard people who like go to Alaska like wanting to see whales and then they don't see any. So I felt really lucky. One of our activities we did was whale watching. So we actually got off of the ship and got onto another little boat with a tour company and went out into a bay to whale watch. On our tour, we had our captain for the boat, and then we had a naturalist. So she was super knowledgeable. I'll leave all their information down below too, for if you're looking for a good tour to go whale watching. They were top notch. I'll just share out some of the facts. I wish I could remember everything she said, but like I said, I was trying to like just enjoy my vacation and enjoy the experience. The one thing I thought was really interesting was that the coloration on a whale's tail is like a fingerprint. That is how scientists and researchers are able to identify specific whales and track them without having to like put physical tracking devices on them. It's really hard for physical tracking devices to stay on whales just because of how they are and how they move and everything that they're doing. So being able to, you know, identify one specific whale in an entire group or across the seas is by their tails. I've been doing a lot of reading about gorillas. I read Diane Fossey's book recently, and she talks about how their noses are like their fingerprints. So I find it really interesting that every animal kind of has something that is entirely unique to them and like a fingerprint. We were also actually able to see something pretty cool. We were able to see a mom and baby humpback whale, and the mom was actually doing something called lunge feeding. So lunge feeding is a behavior where the whales will kind of trap a group of fish by creating this kind of like funnel situation, and then they will dive way down and come up and catch all of the fish, and then that's when you'll see them come up out of the water with their entire heads up out of the water. So I was going through my videos yesterday, and I actually caught this on video, which I didn't even know I did. So that was pretty cool. We did see more of the baby kind of playfully swimming around. A lot of what we see during whale watching is just them kind of going like this up and out of the water a little bit, and then they'll go farther up out of the water, and then you'll see their tail come out. So we could just kind of tell that it was a mom and baby because there were two dorsal fins that kept, you know, breaching at the same time. One of the craziest things that our naturalist told us was about a population of whales in Puget Sound. They're actually known as some of the most toxic animals in the world, and that's because of the amount of pollution that is in their water. They are consuming a lot of food sources, and just from being in that water, that are contaminated with pollution. So not only is their population being decimated because of the lack of salmon, but it's also really at risk because of all this pollution. So what happens is, because these moms have so much pollution in their bodies, they end up passing that down to their young through their milk. And that is why a lot of the babies don't end up surviving, is because they take in such a high amount of pollution so quickly through the milk that it just ravages their body. It helps the mom. The moms tend to live longer because they're able to expel that through their milk, but then the babies are getting such a high toxic amount of it that they end up dying off. So these orcas are really at risk because of so many different factors, and we are responsible for not only the factors, but for doing something about it. So because I'm in vet med, I obviously asked if there were any reasons why scientists might medically intervene for a whale. She said that not really. The only time that they ever try to intervene with whales is through entanglements. And there's actually an entirely volunteer run team of people who go out and disentangle whales from like fishing line and fishing nets and things like that. I've left a link down below for you to kind of learn more about what that means, but I just thought it was so cool that it was completely volunteer run. At another port, we ended up going to a bird sanctuary. We ended up hearing a little bit about some of the permanent residents at this sanctuary, so I'll let the tour guide kind of talk in the video I got, because she does a better job of explaining things than me.
The bone in the middle of their chest. The keel is pretty important to all these birds here. It helps hold together all of their wing muscles. So I'm not quite sure if you guys have ever broken any bones before, but if you have, you kind of understand that even after they heal, it's kind of sore and they never really feel the same ever again. You can have flare-ups, irritation, all of that. Same thing with Allison and the birds we have here. So even though her bones healed back perfectly together, she lost her greatest adaptation, which is silent flight. Owls are known to have insanely soft feathers, so when they're taking flight at night, they can sneak up on their prey and snatch them up in seconds before the prey even knew it hit them. Without silent flight, their hunting success gets cut down to almost 0%. They scare away all of their prey before they're able to get to them. And so with that success rate, Allison is not likely to survive out in the wild. She's very loud when she flies due to her injury, sometimes bothering her. And so it would be inhumane for us to release her. She would starve out there. So she'll stay here with us instead, falling asleep on the job. But she's a great bird. We do love having her here. We're really lucky to have her. And then to my right, we have Sitka. Sitka's our bald eagle. She was found in Ninulchak in the Kenai Peninsula, scavenging on a moose carcass on the side of the road when a car drove out and she flew out right in front of it. From that car accident, she sustained 2 major injuries. One is a hole in her right wing about the size of a silver dollar. The second one is missing her back right toe. That toe to her is like a thumb to us, so without it, she's incapable of picking up anything with that foot, including food. It cuts her hunting success down to 50%, which is not enough food for her to survive in the wild to begin with. But on top of that, these bald eagles are known to be competitive and territorial animals. And so even if she were to successfully catch a salmon, she would have to fend off 10 other eagles with only one good foot.
So there was so much more I learned on this trip that I can't even write it all down. That's honestly my favorite thing about traveling, is learning new things and getting to experience different things. The views weren't bad either. It was super relaxing, and I genuinely felt more like centered and whole when I got back from this trip, which is something I desperately needed because, like I said before, I'm really bad about getting in my zone with work and forgetting that there's like an entire world out there that exists that's outside of like my little world in the clinic. Again, don't forget that that's out there, and don't forget that you are able to do things that aren't your job. If you don't remember those things, that's how you get burnt out. I've left some links downstairs just if you kind of want to learn more about some of the things I said. I'm also reading a book to learn more about the Iditarod and the dogs and things like that, because that was kind of like, that was the thing on my bucket list, is that I wanted to visit a sled dog kennel and, you know, meet dogs and things like that. So that was a really great experience. Let me know if you have any fun facts about these animals, or if you want to share any education, volunteer, or donation opportunities to benefit some of these issues. I would love to learn more and help spread the word. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.